I hope that mic is not just getting rustled to death. Is it getting rustled? I don't think so. I think you're just gonna hear ambient rustle, and that's unavoidable. Okay. Famous last words, Erik. Guys, maybe I'll put this at the beginning. If you've already built your van, this is gonna do nothing for you. But if you have yet to build your van, you're thinking about it pretty seriously, this video, this is gonna help. In today's video, we're gonna be talking about how to stay warm, or at least my insulation strategy for my Ford Transit camper van conversion. In case you guys are curious, this is like what I plan to go over. So hopefully, it's a lot of stuff, but hopefully we can get through this in a fast enough video. The weather is kind of like perfectly sparking this thought process of mine here, because it's cold and I'm insulating. Before we kind of like jump into the specific products or why I chose them, I figure we might as well cover some kind of like base level of why it is that you want to insulate and what you're specifically trying to achieve. That dog. Insulation in general is somewhat a hotly debated topic in vans, but there are, I feel like, a number of principles that you can apply that are pretty well researched in other categories, such as home insulation or just gear insulation. And you want to try and minimize the heat transfer from the inside of your van to the outside when it's nice and toasty in your van and cold outside. And in the summers, when it's hot outside, you do not want that heat coming into the van as much as you can help it. I've pretty much come to the conclusion that it's not possible with insulation alone to ever have like a cold temperature van in the summers. But as best as you can, we're gonna talk about what we're hoping to achieve with our insulation strategy. It's sort of a compromise. You know, we're gonna be working on maximizing interior volume while still being as insulated with the remaining space that we're leaving to ourselves. Somewhat of a long intro, but hopefully that'll help you figure out if this is something that you want to watch, right? Anyways, let's get into some of the topics of thermal transfer. So guys, there are three main ways that heat transfers between surfaces or objects. As far as how we talk about these materials, it's usually going to be relating to what it's trying to mitigate of one of those three things. The first category is conduction. So with conduction, that's like when you have a pan on the fire, the heat that's physically moving as it transfers down the handle, and you can feel it because it's metal on metal. That's a conductive heat. And that's when two objects are directly touching. The next category is convection. So with convection, this applies to either gases or liquids, but air is a gas. So if you have an air cavity, you'll actually have air circulating within that cavity. As it heats up, it'll rise up to the top of the cavity, cool, and then come back down. Also, just in case you're curious, that's exactly how planets burn from the core as far as like consuming the fuel. It's that convection. Third category is radiation heat transfer. So like when you put your hand next to the stove, if it's just like a hot piece of metal and you can just feel that heat when you're really close, it's just the heat bouncing off of it, and you know, I think it's, yeah. So anyways, those are the three different ways that you can have heat loss. Oh yeah. As you can see behind me, I've got a whole litany of different products and types of materials that are going to be used for different areas, different surfaces, locations, because there are pros and cons to each of these items. No one item I think is really like superior and where you want to put everywhere, though if there was, hint, hint, I'm a big fan of wool. You can probably find about 1,000 different sources or different YouTubers who will give you like 1,000 different answers as to what materials they chose. There's no real definitive, this is the accepted answer for any one of these particular categories. I'm not by any means like an expert on this, but having done quite a bit of research, I did try and find as many objective sources as I could. So I will just list the sources that I used in my information gathering down below. Some of my experience and the information that I kind of am applying to my design philosophy here is based off of a bit of backpacking experience and just kind of outdoor gear. Another kind of major thing as it relates to insulation in a van, moisture is guaranteed. So no matter what you do, there is no avoiding it. You are going to have moisture occurring within the van. And so my insulation strategy is based on that assumption and managing that moisture. The reason being that moisture is basically considered guaranteed. Just one of the properties of physics, when you have hot air that comes in contact with a cold surface, you are going to have condensation. So I've seen other people where they will try and use a vapor barrier. They'll add a vapor barrier on the inside of their insulation, thinking that they're gonna, somehow keep moisture away from the exterior of their van, that sort of channel that you're insulating. I am about 99% sure that even those that have the vapor barrier have moisture occurring in that wall. Because the whole goal of this shindig is to have a nice, cozy, warm van out in the boonies when it's cold outside. And so since you're gonna have a whole crap ton of cold air cooling the side of your vehicle and then a nice cozy warm pocket of air inside, you're gonna be creating condensation. It's gonna be creating that exact same effect of causing moisture to condense on the outside of a cold glass bottle. If you've ever been a teenager inside of a parked car and then it starts fogging up the windows, you know who you are. Same effect. Hot, warm space inside, cold air outside. So we're gonna have moisture, or we expect to have moisture guaranteed inside our van. That's why the surface that we're gonna have against the walls is gonna be something that can manage moisture very well. Hands down, nothing really does better than wool as far as managing moisture. So wool itself can actually absorb water when there's high humidity, and it'll take on that weight, it'll take on that water and hold it. It can actually still retain 30% of its weight in water while keeping its same warmth rating. Wool has been like the king for years in the hiking industry as just a completely organic material and doesn't have issues with mold. It's amazing in that wool is naturally antimicrobial and it is also antibacterial. So it's odor resistant and it'll actually help manage odor, which is why Havelock Wool talks about that it works as an air filter. And that's just because it can absorb odors and kills them, being antimicrobial, and that it breathes. You want to have a lot of airflow to help manage that moisture so that you don't have mold and mildew building up in a particular location. Spray foam creates a water or an airtight seal. If it's a true airtight seal up against the side of the van, that means there's no pocket of air for that moisture to even occur. So the moisture will actually happen inside that, on the face of the spray foam insulation, but you're still gonna have the moisture, it's just now sitting on top of your insulation. If you go the spray foam route, you have to make sure that you find all of the drain holes in your van and preserve those drain holes. You cannot block those things up because you need somewhere for all that moisture to go. Otherwise, it's gonna pool inside your van, and that is gonna be a rust mecca. They're all throughout the sides of the van because these vans are actually designed to drain. Daylight. I don't need no daylight. I'm a professional. Who needs daylight? But guys, doesn't this look like it's professionally lit? Now, let's get into spray foam. Spray foam off gases, again, being a petrol-based chemical, petrol-based product. So some people are pretty freaked out about that. Technically, 3M adhesive, that's also aerosol and a petrol-based adhesive. So you're gonna have some, but it's reasonable to want to try and minimize how much. This kind of stuff, sometimes people will just take great stuff and they will just go to town. They will just buy crap tons of these and just spray in everything. That's basically a version of spray foam, but if you get like a real kit or pay for it, they're gonna come in with a whole big old suit and a gun and they just, you know, go to town. If you're gonna do it, that's the way to do it. Pay the pro. But positive of it is that it doesn't mold. Pretty much everything that I'm gonna talk about does not mold. The one thing that does is recycled denim. So I've also seen people trying stuff like denim behind their walls. That is gonna smell horrible. Just give it a few years. Once the mold cultures have really started going crazy on that denim, because it's gonna get wet and it's just gonna be sitting there in a tight compressed space. Denim, cotton. So in the backpacking world, cotton is like, it's a no-no. And it's like the worst material because you're gonna have moisture present all the freaking time and it will start to mold. And it does not retain heat when it gets wet. Okay, Thinsulate. One major con, or pro, kind of for you to decide, of Thinsulate is that you can get special treatments so that it is odor resistant or flame resistant or mildew or water resistant. So flame, odor, and water resistant. They have different versions, but not all in one. Wool does all of that. Wool is awesome. My entire wardrobe, just so you guys know, all of this, wool, 100% wool, usually. Some stuff is like 80% wool, but it's hard to find 100% wool clothing. Super freaking hard. Nice, bro. I was so that kid when I was younger. I had my own motorcycle, so I can't judge. Yeah, I had a oh, she was a beauty. A Yamaha R6, for any of you who know motorcycles. Oh, so beautiful. Thinsulate doesn't mold, or at least it's not, it won't attract mold, but I don't believe. Backpacking world might say something different. It doesn't like flourish, I don't know, whatever. Not a doctor. Damn it, Jim, I'm not a doctor. I'm a doctor, not an engineer.
Damn it, man, I'm a doctor, not a torpedo technician.
That's what it is. Absorb sound. So that's another reason that wool and Thinsulate, but come on guys, how cool is wool for how much of this it does? It's a IES rating or something like that, but basically it's 90%. So big pro. Quickly, some additional sweet facts for you for wool. The exterior of the wool structure is hydrophobic, meaning that it actually tries to expel and it'll wick is kind of like the term used, where it'll move the water across the surface area of all the wool, or as much as it can. It tries to spread it out, which then increases surface area, air surface area, there we go, which helps evaporation. But the inside of wool is hydroscopic, is I believe the term, which means that it'll actually absorb water. And that's why, like I said, it can, in high humidity, absorb something like 30% of its weight in moisture, and yet still retains its same heat insulation value. So super freaking cool. It's natural. It's just growing and walking around in little fields in New Zealand. So anyways, okay, wool, hydroscopic, hydrophilic, naturally antimicrobial, we already got into that. Wool fibers themselves, oh yeah, wool, so of course you've got, you know, a large part of the wool insulation is that air doing its thing, but the actual wool fibers themselves are insulators.
Inconceivable.
Guys, I think that about covers everything. So what I'm actually going to be using, as I mentioned, is going to be Havelock wool in the walls and the wall cavities and the ceiling. So pretty much the outer structure is all going to be Havelock wool. And then what I'm going to do for the floor, I'm going to be insulating with a polyiso rigid foam board. Now there are several different types of foam. You do not want basically like styrofoam. This isn't just styrofoam. It is similar, but this is, one will attract mold and one will not. So you very specifically want to make sure you get polyiso, which is the mold resistant and pest resistant. See, these are little ice cubes. You might think they are fingers, but they are really ice cubes. Let's get into this section of our stratagem. Now, I'm not even actually sure I'm gonna be using great stuff. This is actually left over from a different project that I had back when I had the house. So I had the stuff on hand. So if there's an area that is like too tiny for me to get any amount of wool into, then I'll likely be using this just because it does, you know, if you can completely fill that cavity, it's like a perfect barrier, but then it's, you know, that thing's totally full. You're not coming back to it. Also, guys, this stuff is messy as hell, and it's almost into itself an industrial adhesive. Meaning, if you get it on your nice kind of like brand new $130 wool hoodie, that stain's staying there forever. It's not coming out. Like if you get this on your clothes, you're not washing it off, rubbing it off. It's an adhesive, so be careful. This stuff right here, this is called low E. This is what I'll be putting around, especially like the ribs. They act as a heat pipe, and so you're gonna have a major heat loss through those support beams, and so those in particular are gonna get wrapped in some extra low E insulation. This right here, this is just like a rigid foam, and what I had initially planned on using this for was I was gonna be cutting it into strips and putting it in between the corrugations on the floor. But because of that moisture management, I think I might be abandoning this and instead using just like really thin amounts of wool. Part of me is also just debating not putting anything there and leaving them open, just like George. So that's currently where I'm sort of leaning, is just abandoning this entirely, but this is just a heavy, dense, basically it's almost like a yoga mat. Guys, can you see me? Can you see me? Oh yeah, oh yeah. Like this. What's behind curtain number 1? This is the real mama drama. Oh yeah, oh, this thing's a beauty. Oh my God, look at that. Look at that. Would you just look at it? Oh yeah. Oh, that Reflectix. You know what else it reflects? Light. Oh, not so much. Oh. However, not on the inside. See that? Not gonna bug the ever living crap out of you. That's gonna be just so pleasant. Oh, that looks so nice. That looks good. Yeah, these are the window coverings that I'm gonna use, because the last space that we're not really insulating but is a major source of heat loss, your windows. So everyone who puts windows absolutely everywhere in their van, what if we do this? Is this more flattering? The way that the light falls on my face? Should I do it like this? Yeah, so these window insulators, I did not make, but these are actually handmade, I believe. Combination of handmade, machine made by a sweet ass company. Can you see anything? Here, what if I borrow? I'll borrow this light. Fan-made gear. These things are freaking awesome. Oh yeah, see, oh. This doesn't look that bad. If I just, oh yeah, if I just did this, I could even have it somewhat off. Guys, Bear Grylls here in an adventure. It's just so dramatic. Oh, look at those beautiful browns. Yeah, damn it, I need a light stand. Yeah, baby, I'm just gonna stand here. So yeah, if you guys were curious what it is I'm holding, these little lights, these things are bright, okay? Like, no light, light. If I was a rich man. I'm in love with these things. Okay, guys. I think we're finally at the end of the video. Are you recording? Oh, guys. Let me know if you're interested in a review on this jacket, because this thing, it is so warm. Like, this is I am so happy. You see that? 32 degrees. 32 degrees. And I am snug as a clam in this thing. Also, it has a hood. How dope is that? That's the real downside to this sucker though. You have hood management. You have some extra oomph involved, but I figure that's worth it for all this. You too can have this. Oh yeah, oh. Arcteryx, yo, you wanna sponsor me? We finally did it. After overcoming all of my lighting and battery issues, we just might get there. Hopefully this has been helpful. You know, as I mentioned, if you are in the beginning stages, you're really seriously planning on building out a van, I'm hoping that this video was of use to you. If it was, let me know. Let me know in the comments. If you have any questions about anything in particular that I forgot to address, if that's possible, Mr. Windbags, let me know. And I will either try and reply to your comment, or maybe I'll make a future video, or I'll try and address it when I'm actually installing whatever that particular item was, if you catch me in time, which I'm taking forever. So you've got some time, guys. You've got some time. If you guys like this video, you might enjoy this video right here, where I talk about how I financed my van. If you're looking for something DIY, you might enjoy this video right here, where I talk about installing my new T-vent window. Anyways, see you guys later.